I'm standing where the tall grass was that I cut from the field on the other side of the house, and it's been spread over the beds. Now, anywhere I found plants, I certainly spread around, but we've covered the whole beds with the cut grass in thick layers. Now, what is that going to do? Well, it's going to block the light on any of the weeds that are in there. It's going to choke out those weeds, and I'll be able to plant right inside of the grass as soon as I have plant starts. Now, the layers are kind of loose. I'm going to wet everything down to kind of give it a matting effect, and that matting effect will help us ensure that it kills off anything that's underneath. I didn't have to pull weeds. I didn't have to till. I simply layer on new materials. Now, if I had compost, I would throw the compost on first. If I was going to clean up these paths, I would dig out these paths first and layer them on the beds and then put the straw on last. If you've got enough straw and you've got enough additional material, you can actually put down a thin layer of straw, thin layer of material, thin layer of straw, and do it like a lasagna bed, but that's not necessary. You can really just throw down what you've got as you've got it, because again, we have about a square foot of grass for every square foot of garden. So the next time the grass gets cut, a couple weeks, you're going to have another layer of material. Now, laying the material out on the beds when it's green is best, but if you can't get it out there when it's green, then just get it out there. So you can see some brown spots where the material sat for a couple days before I could put it out. Now, if you have too much material, which is possible, you can start layering it in the paths. Right now I have wood chips in the paths, but you can actually lay it in the paths and walk on it, and it will keep your feet dry and start breaking down. But the grass is biomass to incorporate into the soil through worms. Now, will you have mice and voles underneath here? You could. It happens from time to time, but most of the time, if you have a big open garden, those animals, when they run across the paths, they will get eaten. And your paths will tend to be compacted, and your raised beds will tend to be loose. So they'll either stay in the beds or they will slowly disappear. Now, we have additional grass in here that needs to be cut out, and then I'm going to see about getting some mulch to mulch these paths again. But as this bed expands, we're expanding it with mulch, raised beds, and wood chips. So we're getting these nice thick layers, and in between plantings, actually, if there were bigger plants on, we could hand the straw out around the plants, and then watering it in kind of just mats it down so it doesn't blow around too much. And there are actually bulbs under the plants up top here, so we're starting to get some flowers growing. Now, this layering of the straw will mat out. You can see how just being here a couple days was killing the grass, which is fine, but we want all of the material underneath to die except for the plants that we select. So we're layering the mulch in, which is grass, and we're building on top of it. You see how the path, there's stuff growing in the paths. It's okay. It's all going to get stepped on and killed. And then we've got oregano, some herbs that we mulched around, wildflowers and oregano. And then, of course, we've got some compost starting with some grass clippings. This other grass, this is long cut grass again. And it doesn't really matter how thick you layer it until you get plants. Once you start having plants come out, like I had some, I actually ate them, but they were asparagus coming up over here. I wouldn't want to bury a plant that's coming up out of the ground. That's why you'll see these green patches that we left. Any plant that comes up, we want to let it go all the way through, unless it's this stuff, which we just took off and throw on top to dry. This is basically a grass-fed garden. And again, these beds are only months old. They're 5 months now, 6 months now. And so they're just going to get better and better every year.